Hi, welcome back. We are going to work on a new signature, but before we do that, we need to go back to the previous signature so that I can show you what I did to fix my mistake. And having said that, I am not a perfect crafter. I do make mistakes, but what I will not do is cut and splice in videos so that you don't see those mistakes. I'm human. We all are, and I think we all make mistakes. So we have to learn from them, including myself. I got a little carried away yesterday and didn't follow a pattern that I had established and ended up not covering this particular piece right here. Let me get this down here a little bit more. So if you have already done this video and you have actually done this piece with this section, if you taped it in, you can use a product called Undo. It's a remover. It's safe on paper and photos. I've used it for years. You can find it on Amazon. So you just release the tape. Then I brought over here the piece that I intended to have on this section, and I moved this big pocket over here. It actually worked out better because it allowed for more of a tuck than this piece being here. So then I created a smaller pocket that could slide in there. Now, if you used glue, this is what it is. You're stuck with this being over here. But you can still put this piece, and now it comes over to right about here, and then you can cut another panel, cardstock, do your decorative die if that's what you're doing, and then you can put a new piece from your scraps in here, and then you could use another smaller piece out of the A4 papers to create a small tuck. So that's what I did in order to correct the mistake that I made, because I had jostled. This should not have been here. This should have been here, and this piece should have been up here. So if you're watching the video for the first time and you want to make it correct, the way I had originally intended it is this piece was to go here. Then when you open it up, this piece was to move over here with this pocket, and all of this went right here. So I just got it a little bit carried away with putting this piece down first and not paying attention. So again, I'm not perfect. I do humbly apologize. It still works if you glued it down. You're just going to put this in, cut another pocket piece, and then cut another piece from your scraps to fill it in. So then the other thing I did was I had added some corner filigrees and a butterfly to the front of this, and that finishes that signature. Oh, let's hope I don't make any boo-boos on this one. All right, so our base piece is going to measure, this was the piece I had elected to use. On the reverse side are the teapots, the plates, the clock with the floral. This measures at 8 1/4 across, and then it measures at 8 3/4 in its height. So once again, it's 8 1/4 across, 8 3/4 in the height. We're going to make I cut two pieces that actually act as photo mats with a couple of the smaller items to act as a tuck for the front of this, and then this one's going to go this way. Now these measure 3 5/8 by 5 1/8. And as you can see, I've taken my 1/8 of an inch tape and I've taped all the way around so that we can make a couple of pockets right here and here. So they both measure the same. These pieces are 5 by 3.5, which should be your photo. And then we have these tucks down here if you just want to tuck in your photo. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get these mounted. I'm coming in. I want enough room over here so that you can slide things in comfortably. So I'm going to come in about 1/4 of an inch, and I'm going to drop down about 1/4 of an inch. And then I'm going to do the same thing with this bottom piece. In about 1/4 of an inch, up about 1/4 of an inch, and then lay it down. So we'll go ahead and now glue on these pieces. Oops, my glue cap came off. Now these came out of my scraps. I picked a piece of scrap that was going to accommodate the dimensions that I cut. And yes, the wording is more this way, but it's going to get covered, so it is irrelevant, really. And then this little guy here, I'm just going to put a small bead of tape here at the bottom. And then I'm going to lay it down here in this corner about 1/8 of an inch in and 1/8 of an inch up from the top. So there you have your tuck. Let's go ahead and let's put this one on. The reverse side of this is a pretty cool piece. I like all the dramatics in it. Okay. Now I'm going to get ready to set this. Now you have some spots here that are open. If you want, you could go into your A4 papers and maybe find something. I personally would leave it alone because anything you put here, you'll probably be juggling around once you start to put items in here as your tucks. So the base is finished. What I'd like to also address right at the moment is the pull-out card that's on this particular page. This card measures 8 1/4 inches across by 8 1/2 in the height. So 8 1/4 across by 8 1/2 in the height. I used some ribbon that I have. I've taped it on, and I'm using one of the teapots out of the brass bling that Scrap and Create sent to me, and it will be identified as my pull and that there is something there. The piece I've used here is the reverse side of, it says Magnolia Tea Room, and it has the plate. We've already played with that paper, but I'm playing with the other side to put this on. So I'm going to take this tape off. I'm going to take this tape off. And I have a lot of overhang here. I want to get rid of it because it interferes with my sight line when I am putting things on. Okay. So I'm going to take this particular one off, and I'm coming over here, I'm watching my left side, then my top and my bottom, I make sure that those are all even, and then what happens is it lines up just where I want it to be here on this side. And then we'll take the rest of the tape off. And we'll get this inserted in our album now so it's kind of out of the way. Okay, let's get that album out. So it's going to go right here. Come on. I know you can fit because I just took you out of there. Okay, so there we go. Now, the back side of it, I may run a strip to cover that. I'll show you what I mean. This back side, I might end up just running a strip, but if I have enough paper left over, I may cover the whole thing. I'm going to hold off on this until I get the album done. All right, so we have this done. So now our right side panel, put things back where they're supposed to be. Our right side panel is going to measure at 5 3/4 inches across by your 8 3/4 in height. So 5 3/4 by 8 3/4, which is the height of the base page. And then we're going to score it at a 1/2 inch, and we're going to score it at 5/8 of an inch. And when we put this on here, we're going to come up to that 1/2 inch line so that this hinge is on the top of our page. Okay? I always get myself turned around when I do this. Hold on here, just a second. I just got myself all disoriented. What a silly goof. There I go. See, I told you. Not perfect. I get dizzy. All right, we're going to take that off. And then we're going to push back on this so that we can redefine that 5/8 line. And then you see that this is now nice and flat, and it's on top of, in front of the base page. All right? So let's go over here and let's figure out what we're going to do here on the left-hand side. So this piece, and keep in mind, I'm not counting the decorative edges. It's just the cardstock piece itself. So this is measuring right in at 7 3/4 across by the same height, which is 8 3/4. And then we have a 1/2 inch and a 5/8 of an inch score on this side. I am still befuddled what I'm doing here. Okay, let's park that piece of paper right up next to that 1/2 inch score line. Oh, for Pete's sake, come on. All right, and then we're going to do the same thing. We're going to push back on this so that we can redefine that 5/8 score line, because again, I want that standing up on the top just like these are. Boy, that looks a little wavy. Maybe I can fix it here, the appearance of it. All right, let's work on the inside. Okay. That will go there. I didn't think that went there. Okay. So I used for the inside of both these panels this piece of paper. So the reverse side again is that big center wreath piece. So I've cut them. When you trim them to fit, they will cover both left and right side. And then here on the right side, I am putting a little pocket with the word love. Get these out of the way. And then over here, we're going to do a couple of things. So we got to do those first before I can finish it up. But there is going to be, this piece came from the scraps. It is from the early cuttings when we trimmed out for that little cafe, which was the left side panel. This is one of the side trims, and I'm using it to decorate this piece. But in front of this, we're going to be using this cutout card plus a piece of scrap, and it doesn't matter which direction this is going, simply because someone's going to be putting a photo on this. And I've got a small corner tuck that I'm using with this element right here. So I want to pull, let's just set this right here. All right, so this is going to go in here. Once we get this base page down, this is going to come in and sit on it here, and then this is going to sit over the whole thing and cover it. Now, if you want, you can come in here and you can snuggle it in here, level it out, and you can go this way with it. It doesn't really matter, except when you do it that way, if you can zoom in, you'll see where this seam is right on top of this gusset or score line, and I don't want that. So I'm going to mount it here and then hide this hinge with using this pocket. So I'm going to do that first. And I'm just going to, as best as I can, I'm going to line it up right to the edge and center it as best I can with my eyeballs. All right, so now when you put this in here and you fold this over, this seam here is no longer interfering with the gusset line that we've made there. And then we're going to put this here, and it will cover that up. So let's go ahead and let's finish putting this together. I'm going to start down here at the very corner. I'm going to follow this seam line up. Okay, it's going crooked. Oh, hold on here. Square tape sticks to this cardstock really easy. Okay. Get this out of the way. Start up here. All right, there we go. Oh, and I cut it too long. My goodness, Charlie. What in the world did you do there? twist it around. All right, so that means I am, which end was it? It's this end. I'm lacking enough tape to hold that down, so I'm going to tear off a piece. See, I'm not perfect, but I'm not gonna, there's no sense in me stressing over it. Yes, it's embarrassing to be on video and you make boo-boos for the world to see, but I'm not gonna stress over it because it is what it is. We all make mistakes. I can get this tape off of here. There we go. And then give that a good burnish so that it will continue to lay over. And then I'm going to go ahead and glue this piece in. I had a cutting mistake here too, you can see it. I taped it back together. It happens, you know. I can't believe it. I should have dry measured that before I put it down. I'm tearing off the piece I put back on, so I must have cut something the right way to begin with, and then second guessed myself. Okay, we're done with that. I'm not gonna mess with it anymore. What I do need to do, put everything where it's supposed to be. I'm going to remove this piece, and we're going to fold this left over right because I placed my magnet here, and there's a reason I want this the left over right. So now I'm going to remove the backing on the magnet, and then when I do, I need to make sure that the tops and the bottoms are level and that these hinges are straight. Slide that off. Put a little extra tape here for a good measure. And then this will go here. And I'm going to go ahead and finish this side right here. So this is going to get glued on. And then I'm going to take the tape off of this. And I'm just going to, on the right side of this score line, I will start to lay it down. Now, this was the piece that I originally picked because I thought I would kind of continue this, but I didn't do that to the left side. So as I was inking it, I turned it over and I went, well, I think that's a better piece. So I'm going to use the more colorful graphics side. And then from the A4 paper, I found the word love, and I am going to just cut and trim it and back it on to cardstock. And I'm just going to glue it in place. Covering up the teapot, but the clock still shows, so does the plate. Here's another clock down here. Okay, so we're done so far with this side. We'll come back to this in a second. I am going to tape this side down because I have a magnet sitting here. And it's also a little bit larger piece of paper that I don't know that the glue would still be wet when I got done. But my main reason is I have a magnet here, and if for any reason I need to move that magnet around, make some adjustments to it, I need to be able to get behind this paper to do that. So I use the undo, I lift the tape, and then I'm going to add just a little bit here. And then this is going to come and lay in just like this. So I'm going to take this off, and I'm going to take this off, and I'm going to line it up here on this left side, top to bottom, and then it should just fall right in place. Yay. Okay. I'll take this off. And I'll take that. Now, if you want to mess with a small magnet on this to keep it down, that's entirely up to you. Just be sure that you're placing it. I would place it on this side and then behind here, but be careful where you place it because you don't want those two magnets talking to each other. They're close enough that they very well could. Okay, so the outside of this, we're going to use the clock. And I will glue it down. Oh. Okay, and then I'm going to set it in here. And turn it over, and then we have this piece. The reverse side is this. I mean, you can use it if you want because there's going to be a photo going over it, but I opted for the plainer background, and that's what I'm going to use here. I'm being mindful of the hinge here on my left. I don't want to get in here. And then I've got a little bit of tape to put here, and I'm just going to come in about 1/8 of an inch off the edge and here so that you have a tuck. So the left panel is done. Let's work on, well, it's not done because we haven't done the front, but we're going to go ahead and work on the outside of the right side. Oh, it goes this way. So this piece is from this cutting. So you've got a piece of paper in there that has this big window, and then it's offset. The right side of it is this beautiful floral pattern. Let's put this aside. I don't want you to get confused. And then, so I'm putting this down, and then in your A4 papers, there's this beautiful design, and I thought I would continue with the floral, cut it out, I backed it on green, and I'm only taping this bottom floral section because this is going to be a tuck, and I want it to be a full functioning tuck. So let's see here what happens if we put something in here. No, that's fine. I just don't want to close it off so much that it loses its functionality. All right, so let's put some tape on this. Excuse me. All right, we'll move this piece of tape and we'll use it as our stabilizer once we get this framed in here the way I want it. And then we'll go ahead and put this in. Now, if you don't want to use this one, you can. There's all kinds of items that you can cut out of that A4 paper and place here as a tuck. Make sure that the clock is going upright. All right, so now we have a tuck. Okay, so now we're going to move to the outside of this. So on this window, I did one of my, oh my gosh, I need to cut it apart, make it function a little bit. So I cut it out. If you look at the paper, there is a crease where it looks like the molding meets. So I put this on my scoreboard and I scored from that crease all the way to the bottom on both sides. Then I took my craft knife and I followed the window around to this point. And then I cut it up the center, and then I cut it right here at the bottom. There's about 1/8 of an inch so that this opens like so. Now we got to deal with this. So I went to my A4 paper and I found this. It's got some of the cards and stuff that you can cut out. There's a plethora of them, so using this is not going to hurt anything. So this is going to come in behind the window, like so. If I can get this thing open now. And then I took one of these cutout cards and it says memories, and I put it right there. And then I took a small word out of the A4 papers. It's called diary, and it's going to act as a tuck down here. So if you want to come in and tuck something in, that you can. So my first bit of assembly is to get this and this added together. So we're going to turn it over, we're going to close the doors, and then we're going to space this in here. I think I'm going to get this out of the way so I don't tape it together. So the way I trimmed it, I have roughly 1/4 inch on each side of the window, and then I'm going to pull this down and remove the tape so that I can tape the bottom part of this together. Okay, flatten it out about 1/4 inch on each side. This is going to be difficult. I'm warning you right now, it's going to be a bit difficult because that little thin piece wants to buckle. So what I did is I used this part of my hand to keep this paper steady while I centered this, and it just went down nicely. So then when you open this up, there you go. So I am going to take and run just a thin bead of glue just to the inside so that it doesn't flop around. It doesn't have to be much glue, even just a couple of little dabs. All right, so we are now one piece. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to, now there are, I think, 6 of these. Use whichever one speaks to you the most. Okay, what's going on here? This is a brand new tip, so it should not be giving me glue problems. Oh no, what is the issue here? I'm embarrassed. But my glue tip is clear, and I know I'm not out of glue. And there's the tuck right there. I'm going to tape this because it's kind of big, and I don't know what's wrong with my glue bottle, so I will have to address that here in a little bit. My brain is elsewhere and I don't know, just doing goofy things here. Okay, part of what I wanted to discuss is the front of this. I am not putting a magnet for the doors to close, but you can, however, if you have one of those little swivel dies and you can cut a small swivel that you could put here to keep this closed, and then you're going to have the tines of your, God, I'm forgetting what to call the darn things now, brad is going to show here, so just be aware of that. So the only option is to cover it in some manner, but I'm going to just leave it the way that it is. I don't feel that it really needs to be held closed, but that is simply an option that you can do. I just thought of something while I'm doing this. I think you can see, but I'll show it to you just so that we're all on the same page here. Just a second. I know I'm not making any sense. hold on. Okay, so when I cut this, on this, and how I came up with this width, if you look at this window, on this left side was this section. So I wanted to make sure that when I cut it, that the two sections were balanced. That's why we cut in half the butterfly. And then, this being 8 3/4 inches, I needed to measure this to see where my 8 3/4 of an inch was. So I came here just in front of this arch about 1/8 of an inch, and then from this down is where I cut to fit. And that's how I ended up with this little tiny ledge. So this page ended up being cut to 8 5/8 of an inch. And then the width to fit this. I'm totally off. I don't know why. So when you open this up then, and then this closes, and then you've got this, and then you have that tuck, you have this, we've got a pocket, and then we've got photo mats with pockets. Okay, so then right over left, let's get our big tape out. Let's go ahead and, I just lost the needle to this. Oh, for Pete's sake. Oh, there it is. I gotta cap this off until I find out. What's going on with it. Now, when you're putting your tape on the back of your signature, what you should be seeing is an even edge. If for some reason your edge is collapsing and you see the little score line that you made, the 5/8 score line, that hinge in the middle, just be sure that you're always putting the tape up next to that 1/2 inch line, because if you tape over the 1/2 inch line, then you're going to have a problem where the page isn't going to lay right in the album once we get it in there. And then I'll show you what to do if you get what I refer to as a collapsing hinge. Now, some of the tools I use are available on my Etsy site while supplies last. I'll provide links. Okay, so this is done. Let's get our book. And this is going to sit in here just like this. Oh, see that magnet's fighting with the magnet on the other page. Okay, so that's going to be interesting. Oh, it's fighting. It's either fighting the magnet or this. And then I want to take this piece off. Okay. So I'm going to line right up to the edge, and then I'm going to make sure that I'm even top and bottom, and then I will commit. I'm just burnishing the tape that we've already got committed here. And then I'm going to take the rest of it out. All right, so I have, and I really don't know what causes it because I reinforce my hinges, but this one here wants to collapse, it wants to flatten out, and I don't want it to do that. So when I pull this tape off, and before I lay it down, I'm going to push back on that hinge so it stands up straight, and then we commit and place it down. Otherwise, it's going to flatten out on you and it won't look very pretty. Let's get this burnished really well. Okay, so we have a nice little pocket here. We've got tucks here. We've got photo here with these being tucks. And then we have a photo opportunity here with this being a tuck. And then you can place a photo here, and you can also place a couple of photos here as well as utilizing that big pocket. Okay, so there we have it. All right, until the next video, bye-bye.